A classmate borrowed my scissors. 3 years later, I went to his house to collect. He not only refused to pay, but he also went out of his way to humiliate me. What he didn't know is that I'm a pledge keeper. And a debt to a pledge keeper is paid with your life. When I found Chris, he was throwing a party at his house. Tomorrow was August 15th, a perfect day for a wedding, so he was having his bachelor party tonight with his best friends from college. All 6 of us from our old dorm room were invited, except for me. The other 4 guys stood awkwardly in the doorway. Chris had a cigarette dangling from his lips and blew a cloud of smoke right in my face. Leo, it's not that I didn't want to invite you, man. I was just worried you couldn't afford a wedding gift. Look at you dressed in rags. I heard you're the only one from our graduating class who still hasn't found a job. The others snickered. Yeah, Leo, what happened to you? TSK, he came from the sticks with nothing to his name. How well could he have done? You guys remember freshman year? He showed up in homemade sandals. I almost died laughing. My old roommate, Mike, gave me a hard shove. I get it. You're here to freeload, aren't you? You have to give a cash gift at the wedding tomorrow, but tonight's party is free. Smart move, man. Always looking for a handout. I stumbled back a couple of steps, and their laughter grew louder. I shook my head. I'm not here for food. I'm here to collect a debt. Chris, back in our senior year, you took my scissors on pledge. Chris's family was rich, but he loved taking advantage of people. For 4 years, he'd helped himself to my toothpaste and tissues, used my face towel to wipe his feet without a second thought. And when I was out, he'd throw my comforter on the floor so a bunch of guys could sit on it to smoke and play poker. When I confronted him about it, he was shamelessly indignant. You think I need your cheap crap? Mike immediately jumped in. Exactly. Chris, using your stuff is a compliment. Why are you so sensitive about it, acting like a girl and nitpicking all the time? Chris's uncle was a dean at our college, so everyone in the dorm kissed up to him. Mike was the worst, calling him Chris my man, and following him around like a puppy. At the time, I was dealing with my own problems and didn't want to get into a fight at school and cause more trouble, so I let it all slide. I never expected Chris to push things even further. On August 14th, 3 years ago, Chris grabbed my scissors. Class activity tomorrow. I'm using these for the day. The scissors had a red cord wrapped around the handle. Ever since I moved into the dorm freshman year, I'd kept them under my pillow. This time, I didn't back down. I lunged forward and snatched them back. My scissors can't be borrowed. Why don't you use your own? We're setting up the stage tomorrow, cutting a ton of tape and scrap paper. My Swiss Army knife is too expensive to mess up on junk like that. Chris reached for them again. Why are you so stingy? It's just a pair of scissors. I smacked his hand away. No. My blades can only be pledged, not borrowed. Chris clenched his fists, ready to punch me. I stared back, refusing to be intimidated. The dorm lights were already out, and the eerie blue glow from a laptop screen illuminated my face. For a moment, Chris seemed to lose his nerve. He glanced around and saw that we were the only 2 in the room. His attitude softened immediately. Fine, fine, fine. I'll pledge them. I'll pay you for them later. Are you sure you want to pledge them? Chris, I'm not joking with you. I'm a pledge keeper. You can't run from this kind of debt. We pledge keepers are followers of an ancient tradition. A pledge keeper gives a blade to a debtor on credit. We don't ask for a single cent, but we leave the debtor with a prophecy. When the prophecy comes true, we return to collect our payment. In times of chaos long ago, you could often see pledge keepers in the streets and alleyways. But after the turn of the 20th century, our order dwindled, and true practitioners became almost extinct. Today, you can count the number of people who truly understand the craft on one hand. Haha, a pledge keeper? What the hell is that? Leo, you're so full of it. Chris roared with laughter, snatched the bronze scissors from my hand, and tossed them onto his desk. You're always so annoyingly dramatic, trying to be all dark and mysterious. I'd like to see what this debt is all about. I'll take the scissors on pledge. How much? Just as the words left his mouth, a sudden clap of thunder echoed outside. It was the 14th, and the moon had been full and bright. But as the thunder rolled, a massive dark cloud appeared from nowhere. Soon, a fierce wind began to blow, and raindrops hammered against the window with a sharp, crackling sound. I stared dead at Chris and said, word by word, a terrible plague will come. It will last for 3 years. Chris flinched, trying to hide his fear behind a tough facade. What plague? Why are you telling me this? Are you insane? He grabbed the scissors, crouched down, and jammed them into a cardboard box. I turned to look out the window. The storm had passed as quickly as it came. The clouds parted, and the bright moon reappeared. The contract was sealed. I held out my hand to Chris. The 3-year plague has passed. Chris, I'm here to collect. Chris curled his lip and rolled his eyes dramatically. Everybody get a load of this guy. I used his scissors once, and holy crap, he holds a grudge for 3 years and even shows up at my house to demand them back. Mike slapped his thigh and howled with laughter. That's hilarious. Are you in elementary school, dude? Coming all this way for a pair of scissors? Yeah, being poor is one thing, but you can't be that petty. It's disgusting. Seriously, get lost. Another classmate, Jason, raised his hand as if to slap me. I stood my ground. Chris, I'm telling you one last time. You can't default on a pledge keeper's debt. Give me the money. Chris's face darkened. Son of a bitch. You're choosing the hard way, aren't you? You looking for a beating? Chris, what's going on? Just then, a middle-aged woman in a silk dress hurried out of the house. She was slightly overweight and, after hearing what was happening, shot Chris a disapproving look. Chris, tomorrow is your wedding day. Don't cause any trouble. Chris's mom forced a smile. You must be Leo. Thank you for lending Chris the scissors, but it's been so many years, we honestly can't find them. How about this? I'll pay you for them. Just name your price. I nodded and pointed to the empty bamboo basket by the door. You can pay. $18,000. Cash. What? His mother shrieked, her round, plump face instantly hardening. Young man, don't be ridiculous. It was just a pair of old scissors. The fact that I'm offering you money means we're being more than reasonable. Don't push your luck. $18,000? That's extortion. I can have the police arrest you with one phone call. Mom, why are you wasting your time talking to this guy? Chris rolled up his sleeves impatiently, walked back into the house, and grabbed a baseball bat from behind the door. Leo, you must be broken crazy to try and shake me down. Are you going to get lost or not? The tip of the bat was pointed at my face. I smiled. Chris, of all the debts owed to a pledge keeper, the scissor debt is the one you must never default on. Do you know why? Why? Because they belong to a broke-ass loser like you? Damn it. A pair of scissors. You really have the nerve to show up here and ask for them back. Chris spat on the ground, then slammed the bat against the front door with a loud bang. I'll count to 3. Get out. 1, 2. Fine, I'm leaving. I walked over and picked up my carrying pole and empty baskets. Chris, don't say I didn't warn you. You've broken the contract. The thing inside the scissors won't be contained after midnight. I placed the pole on my shoulder, hoisted the baskets, and began to chant in a low voice. A scissor debt, a soul is split, half its blood opens the pit. As my words faded, an unnatural wind suddenly whipped up out of nowhere. The nearby trees rustled violently, and several people staggered as the gust hit them. Chris was terrified. He swallowed hard, propping himself up against the doorframe to stay steady, his voice a blustering tremor. What does that mean? Leo, what the hell are you talking about? Chris's mom was so angry her nostrils flared, and she repeatedly patted her chest. The nerve of this punk. We can't just let him leave. On the eve of the wedding, talking about ghosts and blood, he's cursing our family. Someone stop him. Stop him. As she yelled, several security guards rushed toward me. Mike charged forward too, leaping into the air and kicking my bamboo baskets, sending them flying. Leo, you're a real piece of work. The other classmates were also riled up, rolling up their sleeves and surrounding me. Yeah. Leo, your mouth is foul. Cursing someone right before their wedding. Chris, a lowlife like this needs to be taught a lesson. Chris's mom nodded vigorously. Exactly. This creep tried to extort us, and when that failed, he cursed our family. Send him to jail. I'm calling the police right now. Wait, Jason. I'm so flustered I forgot. Aren't you a police officer? At her words, everyone turned to look at Jason. Jason blinked, then smacked his own head. Man, this moron got me so worked up I forgot my own job. Leo, I'm telling you, you picked the wrong place to act like a fool. Jason walked over, twisted my arm behind my back, and as I started to struggle, I felt a sudden coldness on my wrist, followed by a soft click. I looked down to see a pair of handcuffs locked around my wrist. Ha! Didn't you say the thing inside the scissors is coming out at midnight? You can just wait right here until then. Jason gloated, pulling me into the villa and cuffing me to the staircase. The others burst into laughter. Chris even started taking pictures and videos of me, posting them in our college group chat. Hey everyone, look who came to visit me. Leo. Other classmates replied with curious questions. No way, is that our Leo? What's going on? Why is he in handcuffs? Chris sneered, squatting down next to me and patting my cheek a few times. This idiot came to my house trying to extort money. Luckily, our very own Officer Jason was here and cuffed him on the spot. Here, Officer Jason, say hi to everyone. Jason nodded at the camera, putting on a serious face. Leo claims that Chris borrowed a pair of his scissors in college and never returned them, so he came here demanding $18,000. I've cuffed him here for now, and tomorrow I'll take him down to the station to make a statement. Chris has security cameras all over his property. This is an open and shut case. We'll see what the court decides. A friendly reminder to our classmates. Being poor isn't a crime, but breaking the law is. The group chat erupted. $18,000 for a pair of scissors? Oh my God, how could he? Hey, isn't one of our guys a lawyer? How many years would he get for $18,000? That's a felony amount. He's looking at 3 to 10 years. Chris, come on, we were all classmates. He didn't actually get any money. Why not just let him apologize and drop it? Prison is no joke. All right, since our star lawyer has spoken, I'll give you some face. Chris aimed the camera at me. Here you go, Leo. Don't say I never gave you a chance. I'm getting married tomorrow, and I don't want to make things ugly. How about this? Get on your knees, bow your head to the floor 100 times, and I'll let you go. Ha ha ha, that's my man Chris, always generous. I'll record it for you guys. Mike slapped Chris on the shoulder, took the phone from his hand and stepped back. Chris, stand with your profile to me. Yeah, just like that. Okay, Leo, start bowing. Chris tilted his chin up arrogantly and straightened his collar. Mike, get my good side. Post this on the old school forum later for everyone to see. Leo, bow. I sat cross-legged on the floor and rolled my eyes. Chris, remember what you just said. 100 times. When it's your turn, you'll do the same. Not one less. After I spoke, the room fell silent. Chris dug a finger in his ear in disbelief. What did he say? Mike replied. Chris, he said he wants you to bow to him. Chris laughed, but it was laced with fury. Hey, interesting. Leo, you really have no idea how to spell dead. Do you? I gave a cold laugh and looked up at the huge grandfather clock in the corner. The minute hand was slowly creeping around, while the hour hand rested on the number 8. I don't. But in about 3 hours I think you will. Mike snorted and nudged Jason's arm. Hilarious. This guy is so stubborn. Remember that time he got disciplined? He had the same dead-eyed look. Old Man Chin twisted his ear until it was bright red, and he still wouldn't apologize. Back in college, the guys in our dorm loved to play poker. Since we didn't have a proper table, Chris would often spread my comforter on the floor, and they'd sit on it with their shoes on. Most of the time they gambled with money. When Mike ran out of cash at the end of the month, the penalty was sticking strips of paper on his face. The paper they used was torn from my notebooks. I rushed over to grab my notebook, but Mike shoved me to the ground. Leo, it's just one notebook. Why are you so damn cheap? Yeah, a notebook only costs a few bucks. Chris flicked his cigarette ash onto my comforter and pulled a crumpled $20 bill from his pocket, tossing it in front of me. Take it. Don't say I'm not reasonable. Go buy a new one. Whoa. That's our generous Chris. 20 bucks. You can buy 2 notebooks with that. Leo, you came out ahead on this one. You'll have enough left over for breakfast for a couple of days, ha ha ha. They laughed wildly as I watched the homework I had pulled 3 all-nighters to finish get torn to shreds. I was so furious I lost control. I lunged forward and slammed my fist into Chris's face. He cried out as blood spurted from his nose. Shit. You're asking for it. The others saw what happened and swarmed me. Only then did I come to my senses. I gritted my teeth, covered my head, and didn't make a sound. My master had told me I would face a life or death trial during these years, and that I absolutely could not cause trouble at school. Later, students from another dorm called our guidance counselor. By then, Chris's nose had stopped bleeding, with 2 wads of tissue paper stuffed up his nostrils. I was black and blue from their beating, my blood splattered on the floor. But the counselor acted as if he didn't see any of it. He grabbed me by the collar and furiously demanded that I apologize to Chris. Leo, you're making trouble again. You dare to assault a fellow student? Do you want to be expelled? Mimicking his memory of the event, Mike reached out to pinch my ear, his voice a mocking falsetto. Leo, you don't want that student aid anymore? Jason clapped and roared with laughter. Ha ha ha, Leo, with a disciplinary record, it must be hard to find a job, right? How have you not learned your lesson? Pissing off our man Chris in college just meant you couldn't get a job. Now you're trying to extort him? That's prison time. A pretty boy like you, do you have any idea what happens to guys like you in jail? Chris's mom shook her head, her face full of disgust. Enough. A scumbag like this will get what's coming to him out in the real world. You boys shouldn't get your hands dirty. Especially you, Jason. You're a cop. Keep an eye on Chris and make sure he doesn't get into a fight. Come on, everyone, let's eat. You got it, Mrs. K. We'll listen to you. Jason pulled Chris away, and the group went back to the dining table to drink. By the time the meal was nearly over, everyone was drunk. Mike swayed back and forth and tossed a bone in front of me. $100 tomahawk steak. Bet you've never had one. Here, have a taste, ha ha. Chris cackled. Leo, bark like a dog. If you do it well, I'll see about getting you a few years off your sentence. 3 to 10 years is a big range, you know. 3 years versus 10, that's a huge difference. I stared at the clock in the corner. The hour hand was now pointing to 10:30 p.m. A smirk played on my lips. Sure. I don't know how to bark like a dog, but I can do a ghost wail. Jason, why don't you give them a demonstration? I'll demonstrate my ass, hee hee hee. Jason, with a mouthful of beef, suddenly let out a shrill, piercing laugh. It sounded like an old woman being strangled, and the sound echoed through the spacious room, sending a chill down everyone's spine. Jason gasped and clamped his hands over his mouth. Everyone froze, staring at him in shock. Jason, what are you doing? Yeah, why did you laugh like that? Jason shook his head, his hands still over his mouth. I didn't laugh. That wasn't me. It was definitely Leo. He's the one messing with us. Chris tossed a lobster shell onto the table and crossed his legs. All smoke and mirrors. Leo, I thought you were a pledge keeper. When did you learn ventriloquism? Or are you saying the blade you pledged has a ghost sealed inside it? Ha 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 ha. I looked up at Chris. Wow. Congratulations. You guessed it. No one knew that we pledge keepers don't actually pledge blades. We pledge souls. The souls of ghosts. Legend has it that our founder once had a blade that he passed to a treacherous student. After receiving it, the student's personality warped. He used that very blade to cripple his own brother in arms. It was all because the blade contained the soul of a wicked spirit. Later, the crippled brother lured the traitor to his death and shattered the blade into countless fragments. Each fragment was tainted with a dispersed soul. He had them forged into ordinary kitchen knives and distributed among the common people. This method of soul forging was adopted by other mystical schools, and through their combined practices, the Pledge Keeper Order as we know it today was born. Pledge keepers wander from town to town, trying to find debtors for their blades, all in an effort to refine and dissolve the souls sealed within them. To prevent accidents, a pledge keeper also offers a prophecy, usually related to something like the price of grain or a person's fortune. Kitchen cleavers are the most commonly pledged blades. They absorb human energy, and being in a kitchen, they're constantly exposed to smoke and fire, chopping countless times a day. Over time, the wisp of a soul sealed inside will simply dissipate on its own. But scissors are different. Their two blades are a conduit for malevolent energy. Scissors are used far less frequently. The entity inside one might not be neutralized for generations. I cupped my hands toward Chris, the handcuffs clinking against the metal staircase railing. To be honest, I don't even know what's in these scissors. After all, no one has ever dared to default on a scissor debt. But thanks to you, I guess we're about to find out. Chris's face turned green. Damn it, you think I'm scared of you? You're about to go to jail, and you're still spouting this nonsense. Mike made a face. So pathetic. Leo, your mouth is just foul. Chris's mom stomped her foot in anger. Nothing but trash comes out of that mouth. You guys go stuff that bone in his mouth. I don't want to hear him talk anymore. Leave it to me, Auntie. To save face after his ghostly cackle, Jason puffed out his chest and charged toward me. He bent down, picked up the steak bone, grabbed my chin with one hand, and tried to force the bone into my mouth with the other. I stared at Jason's face and sneered. That weird laugh just now, was that you or me? Don't you have a clue what's going on? Jason's hand froze. It's almost midnight. The malevolent energy is running wild. Your spiritual center is dark, you'll be the first one it affects. When the thing inside the scissors gets out, even if its target is just Chris, you won't escape unscathed. You're trying to scare me? Jason swallowed nervously, and his grip on my chin unconsciously loosened. A scissor debt requires the scissors to be present for collection. If you don't believe me, go check behind the sofa cushions. See if they've already appeared. Don't listen to his crap. I threw those scissors away after college. How could they show up in my house? Chris was dismissive. Jason, what are you, a coward? You're a cop, for God's sake. You don't actually believe him, do you? As he spoke, he walked over to the sofa, lifted a cushion, and glanced at it casually. See? There are no scissors here. The next second, Chris's mouth fell open. He stood there, stunned, his eyes practically bugging out of his head. There, on the black leather sofa, lay a pair of golden bronze scissors. The handles were wrapped in red thread, glowing eerily under the light of the crystal chandelier. What the hell? Who put the scissors here? Chris stumbled back and collapsed onto the sofa. No one in the living room spoke. Everyone stared at the scissors for a moment, then turned to look at the grandfather clock in the corner. The hour hand was pointing to 10:50. 10 minutes until midnight. Jason's face went white as a sheet. He dropped the bone and instinctively shuffled closer to me. What's happening? Did those scissors really appear out of nowhere? What do you mean, what's happening? Jason, you're losing it. Use your cop brain and think. This moron probably hid the scissors there when he first walked in, just to scare us. Mike walked over and kicked me hard in the shin. I didn't flinch, just took the blow. See, if he was some all-powerful pledge keeper, would he be sitting here helpless, cuffed by us? Yeah, the bastard. Daring to scare me. Chris picked up the scissors and threw them forcefully onto the floor. He must have found the scissors a long time ago and is now pretending to show up and collect, trying to extort us. Damn it. I've never met such a pathetic lowlife. Exactly. He's just a coward. We used to beat him like a dog in college. Besides a tough mouth, did he ever dare to fight back? Jason, you're really letting him get to you. The two of them went back and forth until Jason, shamed by their words, turned from pale to red. This son of a bitch is just asking for a beating. Jason raised his hand to slap me. I tilted my head, my gaze shifting past him to look behind Chris. 3, 2, 1. It's here. Chris rolled his eyes, 2 puffs of air huffing from his nostrils. Leo, are you addicted to this act? Who's here? A ghost. He spun around quickly. In the instant he turned, all the lights in the house suddenly went out. Chris's mom let out a piercing scream. A moment later, the lights flickered back on. And then a shocking scene unfolded. The scissors, which should have been on the carpet, were now floating silently in midair. Everyone froze. Chris rolled his eyes again and reached for the floating scissors. Leo, another one of your tricks. What did you rig up inside this thing? The moment his pale fingers got close, countless strands of black hair shot out from the scissors. The hair formed a giant hand that clamped around Chris's neck and lifted him into the air. Chris's eyes, which had just been rolling in annoyance, were now stuck wide open in terror. His tongue lolled out, a scream trapped in his throat as he flailed his arms and legs, his face turning a deep shade of red. A ghost! A ghost! Jason screamed and scrambled away, cowering behind me. The others were terrified too, screaming and running toward me. There's a ghost! Oh my God! Leo was telling the truth. Mommy, there's really something in the scissors. Leo, you have to save Chris. I tugged at the handcuffs on my wrist. Sorry. I'm a little tied up. Can't move. I'll unlock them. Oh God, just go save him. Jason was trembling all over. He fumbled in his pocket for the key to unlock my cuffs. As he worked, he glanced nervously at Chris. He saw that the hair had stopped pouring out of the scissors. Instead, a patch of bloody red scalp was now squeezing its way out from between the two blades. Ah! Jason let out another scream and fumbled even faster, desperately trying to free me. But I pulled my cuffed hands back. No need. I'm still waiting to go down to the station tomorrow to give my statement. You. Jason's eyes widened, but one look at the scissors made him back down again. Fine. 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 I was wrong, okay? I'll unlock you, just go save him. Don't beg him. Damn it, I don't believe it. There's no such thing as ghosts. Mike shakily got to his feet, spat in his palm, and declared, "This is all part of Leo's plan. Those scissors are just some high-tech gadget. It's all fake. It's all fake." Mike looked around frantically, then lunged for a steak knife on the dining table and charged toward Chris. "Chris, I'm coming to save you." By the time he reached Chris, the thing inside the scissors had revealed its entire head. Or rather, not one head but two halves of a head. The ghost looked like a woman from ancient times, her hair in two top knots, with gold earrings dangling from her ears. But her entire face was split down the middle, opening up like a pair of scissors on her neck. Her hair wasn't growing from her scalp, but was pouring out from the gaping wound. Mike skidded to a halt. The ghost's two half-heads, with two perfectly round, black eyes, stared at him from either side. Mike let out a muffled grunt, and before he could even scream, his eyes rolled back, and he fell to the floor in a dead faint. He, this young master is quite the delicate flower. A soft, deep, and feminine laugh, chillingly powerful, echoed through the living room. The temperature in the house dropped several degrees. This was a kind of bone-chilling, skin-crawling dread that no human could possibly fake. The female ghost giggled a few more times, then continued to wriggle and squirm, trying to squeeze her entire body out of the scissors. Seeing her form, a name flashed in my mind: the Split Maiden. The Split Maiden is a scissor spirit. The Codex of Anomalies, a text from centuries ago, describes her as the spirit of a woman who took her own life with a pair of scissors. Her soul becomes one with the blade, growing in malevolent power until she is nearly impossible to deal with. The Split Maiden ignored Mike. Her hair continued to writhe in the still air, but now a new bundle broke off from the main mass, choking Chris and slithered into his open mouth. Chris's body instantly arched like a shrimp, his face contorted in agony. The Split Maiden giggled. "Faithless man." Watching from the side, Chris's mom turned deathly pale and let out a wail. "Chris, my son." She rushed forward to save him, but was violently swatted away by a tendril of hair as soon as she reached the edge of the carpet. Her plump body spun twice in the air before crashing onto the hardwood floor. Chris's mom pushed herself up, trembling as she stared at the bizarre scene. Her knees went weak, and she couldn't summon the courage to move forward again. Sobbing, she gritted her teeth, ran over and grabbed my hand. "Quick, you were classmates. You have to save my son. If you save him, I'll forget about what happened earlier." Even now, her tone carried an air of superiority she wasn't even aware of. I leaned back lazily against the staircase. "Oh no, please don't. I'm still looking forward to Officer Jason taking me downtown for my statement." Seeing my attitude, Chris's mom gritted her teeth in fury. Your name is Leo, right? You were classmates. How can you just stand by and watch him die? Don't push your luck." Just then, Chris let out another horrifying scream. His body convulsed violently, and blood gushed from his nose and the corners of his mouth. His eyes bulged like a goldfish's, and his fingers splayed wide as he reached desperately in my direction, his gaze pleading. Leo, save me. My son. Chris's mom shrieked, her face a mask of terror. Leo, I take it back. I'm begging you, please save my son. If you don't help him now, he's going to die. I rattled my handcuffs. I'm cuffed. I want to help, but I can't. As I spoke, the female ghost let out another cackle. He is this young master playing dead. By now, her entire body had emerged from the scissors. She wore a red, traditional Chinese wedding dress and tiny embroidered slippers, one of which was resting on Mike's hand. A powerful ghost may be weightless, but its malevolent energy is crushing. The moment her foot touched him, an icy chill shot through his skin, and Mike's whole body began to shiver. Realizing his ruse was discovered, Mike let out a yelp and scrambled to his feet, trying to run toward me. He only made it a few steps before a strand of hair flew from behind and wrapped around his neck. With the hair now divided, the grip on Chris's neck loosened. He thrashed wildly and managed to fall to the floor. Oh God, Leo, help, save me. Chris scrambled across the floor on his hands and knees. Mike was also writhing on the ground, his body squirming like a fat maggot. I shook my head regretfully and jingled the metal handcuffs at them. Clink, clink. The crisp sound that had brought them so much satisfaction earlier now brought them nothing but despair. I can't move. Didn't Chris say he'd only forgive me after 100 blows? If I just stand up now, I might end up in jail. Chris froze for a second, then it clicked. Tears and snot streamed down his face as he knelt on the floor and began bowing his head to me. I was wrong, Leo. You're my brother, my real brother. I was an ass. I'll bow to you, I'll do it. When the others saw this, they also knelt in a row and started bowing frantically toward me. Leo, do something. Seeing her son in such a pathetic state, Chris's mom's mind suddenly cleared. She rushed over, hugged my legs, and started pulling off her jade bracelet, diamond ring, and watch, shoving them into my hands. Money. I'll give you money. 18,000. I'll pay you. I shook my head. That was the old price. Breaking the contract comes with a penalty. 100,000. No, 200,000. This stuff is worth at least 200 grand. Just save Chris. He's getting married tomorrow. Nothing can happen to him. Chris's mom wailed. Chris and Mike were being wrapped in the split maiden's hair, their bodies nearly cocooned. Their struggles were growing weaker. Seeing this, Jason's expression changed. He began to shuffle quietly toward the main door. But I had already warned him. His spiritual center was dark, making him susceptible to this energy. Now, with the malevolence at its peak, the moment Jason got near the sofa, he froze. A black aura washed over his face, and he stood motionless. Chris, tangled in the hair, rolled on the floor and happened to land next to the steak knife from earlier. He painstakingly reached out and managed to hack off a large chunk of hair. Jason, help me, help me. Chris scrambled over to Jason and grabbed his leg. Jason, his face a grim mask, gave him a sinister smile, then suddenly reached down and clamped his hands around Chris's neck. Jason had been recruited to the police force from a public search and trained for 2 years. He was tall and strong. With his full force, Chris's face immediately turned purple. Just as he was about to pass out, I slowly raised my hand and pointed into the distance. Bring me my pole and baskets. And throw that pile of jewelry into the basket. This debt is collected. Okay, Sniffle, okay. Just please save my son. Chris's mom scrambled over, threw all her jewelry into one of the baskets, and even tossed in her necklace and earrings for good measure. I took a pin from my collar, fiddled with the lock on the handcuffs for a few seconds, and they clicked open. I tossed the cuffs aside, grabbed my carrying pole, and walked toward Chris. The split maiden watched me warily. You intend to interfere? He was the one who broke the pledge. Why are you meddling? I gripped the pole tightly. I don't want to, but manifesting spirits has been forbidden since the New Age began. If you get away, it'll be nearly impossible for me to find another spirit like you to seal in the scissors. And I can't forge new ones. So please go back inside. Humph. Young man, you want to seal me? I doubt you have the skill. The split maiden let out a piercing shriek. She released Mike, and all her hair morphed into sharp spikes shooting toward Chris. Chris was still being choked by Jason. If this attack landed, he'd be turned into a human pincushion on the spot. He struggled desperately but couldn't break free, his face a mask of despair as he watched the hair fly toward him. At the critical moment, I took a few steps forward and swung the pole, blocking the attack. The moment the hair touched my pole, it recoiled as if doused with ice water. I swung the pole in a protective circle with one hand, freeing the other. I turned and slapped Jason hard across the face. Ah! The slap sent Jason sprawling to the ground. His cheeks puffed out twice, and then he leaned over and began to vomit thick, black, viscous fluid. Chris fell to the floor, clutching his throat and gasping for air. Having survived their ordeal, the two of them clung to each other and burst into tears. Oh my God, that was terrifying. How can ghosts actually be real? Just then, the split maiden changed direction and attacked from the other side. Chris and Jason immediately scrambled to hide behind me. Lao! Brother Leo! Help us! I snorted. Weren't you going to post the video of me bowing in the group chat? What happened? Not anymore. Chris just stared at me dumbly, but Jason reacted instantly, pulling out his phone with trembling hands. Brother Leo, we were blind to your greatness. We'll bow to you. We'll post the video, we'll post it. He grabbed Chris, aimed the phone at themselves, and started recording as they bowed their heads to the floor. Leo didn't extort us. It was all our fault. We were wrong. Brother Leo, save us. The video hit the group chat, and it exploded. Whoa, what the hell is going on? Chris is crying like that? What happened? Is Leo's background even more powerful than his? Maybe. Let me tell you guys something. Don't judge Leo for being poor. One time, I saw him get out of a Rolls-Royce. The driver was super respectful to him. What? That's not what you said last time. Didn't you say he was some sugar baby for a rich old lady who could be your grandma? Yeah. What's with the revisionist history? Maybe the sugar mama stepped in again? Jason glanced at the group messages and started shaking even more violently. You all shut the hell up. Slander my brother Leo again, and I'll sue you for defamation. Brother Leo is my brother for life. Jason put his phone aside and looked at me with a fawning expression. How was that? Brother, I'm seriously begging you. I really don't want to die. I didn't have time for him, because the ghost was unleashing her ultimate move. Seeing that her attacks couldn't get past my pole, the ghost shrieked again. Her two half-heads flew in opposite directions, ripping her body in two. A heap of internal organs spilled out. Jason saw it and started vomiting again. Of the other classmates, the braver ones were huddled by the stairs, trembling, while the more timid ones had already fainted. With her body split, two split maidens were attacking me simultaneously. I was suddenly overwhelmed. In a moment of distraction, the left split maiden dragged Chris away. Chris screamed bloody murder. Lao! Brother! Dad! Save me! To make matters worse, Jason was still clinging to my leg from behind, while the other half of the split maiden lunged at me. I grabbed a handful of Jason's hair, slapped him twice, and then kicked him away. You hold her off for a second. I dashed to the sofa, picked up the scissors from the floor, and snapped them in two. I quickly unwound the red thread from the handle and wrapped it around my fingers. These scissors were the split maiden's host body. They held a natural power over her. I lunged at the split maiden with the broken blade. She dodged nimbly to the side. Seizing the opportunity, I whipped my other hand out from behind me, wrapped the red thread around her neck, and swiftly tied a knot. Ah! The split maiden shrieked as black smoke billowed from her neck. Seeing this, the other half let go of Chris and flew at me with a piercing cry. I was crouched on the floor. Just as she was about to hit my back, I thrust the scissor blade I was holding up from under my ribs, stabbing deep into her body. The sequence of moves sounds simple, but every action had to be timed perfectly. It was incredibly risky. The two halves of the split maiden screamed and gradually merged back into one. I used the red thread to bind her two half-heads tightly together. With the blades of the scissors closed, her power was cut in half. Bring me my basket. After I said it, everyone just stood there frozen. Get the basket. Now, I yelled again, and Mike finally snapped out of it. He shakily picked up the basket and handed it to me. I jammed the 2 scissor handles into the split maiden's body, then covered her with the bamboo basket. Okay. Get some sticky rice. Sprinkle it all around. Get a lot. By dawn she should be back inside the scissors. A housekeeper brought sticky rice from the kitchen. I sat down heavily on top of the basket and scattered a thick circle of rice around it. Seeing the split maiden lie motionless on the floor, her form slowly shrinking back into the basket, everyone let out a collective sigh of relief. Chris sat on the floor, his eyes vacant. Leo, you're a total badass. With skills like that, why didn't you just kick my ass in college? Jason cleared his throat. Don't talk like that. Brother Leo is a master, beyond our petty squabbles. Brother Leo, we were wrong about everything before. Please don't hold it against us. Mike nodded like a bobblehead. We're nothing. Brother Leo, you're a bigger person than us. Please don't hold a grudge. Only Chris's mom stared at the pile of watches and necklaces on the floor, her expression full of resentment. You're all classmates. Just for moving around a little, you're taking so much money. My eyes turned cold. What? Do you want to default on a pledge keeper's debt a second time? Chris frantically waved his hands. No, that's not what my mom means. Mom, what are you doing? Do you want me to die? Do you have another secret son somewhere? What nonsense are you spouting, you child? Chris's mom awkwardly smoothed her hair, shrank back, and sat down quietly, not daring to speak again. The other guys obsequiously tried to get on my good side, showering me with praise. I kept my eyes lowered, ignoring them, focusing only on the movements under the basket. As the grandfather clock struck 5, the eerie, cold feeling in the room vanished. I lifted the basket. 2 scissor blades lay quietly on the floor, both covered in a thin layer of rust. It's done. I'm taking these scissors back with me. As I packed my things, there was a loud knock on the front door. Chris, the makeup artist has been waiting outside for half an hour. We can't be late to pick up the bride. Chris, who had been dozing on the sofa, jolted awake. Quick, clean this up. Go open the door. Chris and his groomsmen rushed off to get the bride. Jason deliberately stayed behind to attend to me, eagerly pouring me tea, offering me drinks and cigarettes, and insisting I stay for the wedding reception. It was clear he was scared out of his mind. He was afraid of future trouble and was trying to curry favor with me. I couldn't be bothered with him. After finishing my breakfast, I shouldered my pole and basket and prepared to leave. As I walked out of the villa's main gate, the wedding procession was just returning. Confetti cannons exploded on both sides, and colorful paper fluttered through the air, swirling down onto the red carpet. Chris, his face etched with exhaustion, lifted the bride out of the wedding car. He stumbled, barely able to keep his balance. The guests laughed. What's wrong with the groom? Can't handle it. Wonder what he was up to last night. I looked at the beautiful bride in his arms, and my eyes widened in surprise. Interesting. Another one with a debt to her name. It's true what they say. Birds of a feather flock together. But this time, her business had nothing to do with me. I turned and walked away. Faintly, I heard the bride's angry voice behind me. What does he mean? For that little thing, he chased me all the way here? Someone get rid of him. Honey, who is that? Do you owe him something? Is that guy crazy? Showing up on our wedding day to demand something back? Don't worry, I'll call security. I shook my head and sighed. Paying your debts is the simplest rule in the world. Why is it so hard for people like them to understand?